Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Facilitators of Healing, where I interview facilitators of healing. And right now, I've been interviewing a bunch of Revelation Breathwork grads, and we have an amazing guest today, Kaje, also known as Womanifester. Such a great handle. I'm going to share a little bit about her and her bio. She is a trauma-informed manifestation coach, a somatic healer, a certified Revelation Breathwork facilitator, and a modern-day witch devoted to helping women heal, embody, and manifest with more grace and ease. Her work bridges the spiritual and the practical, blending somatic healing practices like breathwork and trauma release with ritual, ceremony, deep nervous system attunement. Katie's path has been shaped by a deeply spiritual upbringing, yoga, and energy work, and years of experience in sustainability and online business, all of which inform the grounded, soul led way she supports her clients today. She works primarily one on one and leads transformational retreats all around the world. So, we're going to have an amazing conversation. You're going to love it. I'm so excited to bring you more of Katie J. All right, well, welcome, Katie. I'm really glad and excited to have you on the show to share you with the audience and for them to hear more about you and what you've been up to and how you're using Revelation Breathwork and all the work that you do.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. What was your first Revelation Breathwork experience like, if you can remember it?
Oh, yes, I remember it very clearly. So I can't remember exactly how I got connected with Brandon Grew, but I think it was maybe through one of my community members. And he reached out to me asking if he could hold space for me to receive a breathwork journey. And at that point, I had done pranayama breathwork in my yoga teacher training. So I was familiar with more down regulating, calming breathwork. And so I thought that's what we were doing. And we hopped into the journey. And before I knew it, I was in tears and having a extremely beautiful experience with really powerful images coming to me where I was basically rising above the earth and bringing other light workers and healers with me. And we were ascending and growing and healing and expanding together. And that's kind of when I knew that that was where my business was going to go, was to work with and specifically serve light workers, healers, other coaches, people who are here for the expansion of the planet. That all came through during that breathwork journey with Brandon. And it was also clear at that point that I needed to add breathwork to my medicine bag as well. So that was my first introduction to breathwork. I did shortly after that, I signed up for the level 1 training and then ended up doing the level 2 training as well, with Brandon, actually. So
I love that. And when was that? What year was that?
2020.
2020. So it's been about 6 years since you did your very first session and you remember everything pretty vividly. I think that's a testament to what's available. And you weren't expecting that, too.
I was not expecting that. I had read his introduction, and going back, I it probably had in there that something like that could happen. But it wasn't exactly what I thought I was getting myself into. I'm glad I did, but it wasn't what I thought I was getting myself into. And so, yeah, that was a very memorable breathwork journey that will never leave me.
And in that session, you kind of had the knowing that you wanted to bring this modality, this tool to others through the work that you do as well. And that's why you signed up for the training.
Exactly, because at that point, and even still, I like to focus on manifestation work. That is, I call myself a manifestation coach, a spiritual and somatic life coach. And what I noticed with my clients is that oftentimes, yes, we can use the affirmations, we do the light work practices that feel good and try to get us into a new vibration, a new frequency to embody what it is that we are calling in. And there's also this layer of limiting beliefs, doubts, fears, domestication, conditioning, trauma that people have been through that stands in their way of truly manifesting their desires. And I found breathwork to be a really powerful tool that helps people, my clients, myself, move through those limiting beliefs, break through the glass ceiling of their own limitations so that they can start to actually see what life might be like if their dreams came true, if their lives reflected their desires, and begin to actually feel the feelings of that despite the trauma, despite the limiting beliefs, despite the fears.
It's really powerful, and love how you weave that in. So let's go back. At the time you took the training, we had separate levels. We had a level one and a level two. I don't even think we had a level three yet. Now it's all one training with all the what used to be levels mixed in. But do you remember what your experience of the training one and two was like?
I remember there being a lot of really beautiful space holders in the group. And at that point, we were doing, it was like an intensive training during the weekend. So we spent all day together, I think on a Saturday, and then all day together on a Sunday, I believe. Again, this was 6 years ago, so I don't remember all the details of it. But I did really appreciate that intensive style and being able to kind of meet those people where they're at and get to actually practice holding space. I think that to me was one of the most beneficial parts of the training was the practice, the fact that we actually were the ones that got to hold space for one another. And what that did was disarm this illusion of this is something that I can't do, or this is something that's so far out, so magical and mystical. And then when you actually get to be the one holding space and realizing that that person is having a powerful transformative experience, not because of I'm doing anything, but because of the space that I'm holding, and because they know how to breathe, right? We introduced the breath work at the beginning, the breathing pattern at the beginning. And so as long as I'm there holding that loving, supportive container, they're still going to have a powerful experience. Even though I'm a complete beginner, they still had amazing experiences. And that to me was really, really empowering to know, to walk away from that training, having the confidence that I can just be there for somebody, and that's enough.
Yeah, you share about holding space. What do you feel like now as a, even I'm sure this is more than just in Revelation Breathwork, it's in all the work that you do. What would you say are, like, what does it mean for you to hold space? And also, what do you notice either in your past self or in others that kind of, when someone's not a good space holder, whatever, again, how you would define that?
Yeah, holding space to me is, and I might have described this differently 6 years ago when I got trained, but now how I would describe holding space is being regulated yourself, having your own practices and rituals and routines that support myself, and being a person that can co-regulate with my client. So I come into the room and people can feel that I'm at peace. People can feel that I'm supported, that I'm resourced, that I like to say juicy, right? Like I have good nourishment, good sleep. And so I walk into the space, whether it's virtual or physical, already regulated in my nervous system. And so I'm vibrating that, I'm reflecting that into the room around me, into the space around me. And that is what creates a space for somebody else to co-regulate with me, which is what we're doing here, and for them to feel that their nervous system can relax, their bodies can fully arrive, that they trust and feel safe in the container. I think holding space also has to do with how you prepare the space. So the introduction that you give to breath work, and I've modified that to basically, with my containers, I have a podcast episode that I send to people and say, listen to this before we arrive so that we can go ahead and drop in. So that prepares them before they even get there. The space is already starting to be held. So that's kind of how I see holding space. And what makes someone not good at holding space is simply the opposite of that. You're showing up rushed, you're maybe not doing your energetic hygiene to clear off other people's, because coaches, facilitators, space holders, it's easy to take on people's stuff when we're holding that space, when we're listening to their challenges and their issues and their problems. It's easy to take that on. And whether that's your family, your friends, your coworkers, or your clients, if you're not actively and intentionally taking care of yourself energetically, physically, spiritually to cleanse that out, it can affect how you hold space. And I think that's what makes someone not a good space holder is when they walk into the room and you already feel their stress, you already feel their tiredness, their fatigue, you already feel their anxiety and their tension. You're not going to feel safe enough to relax and receive what you're ready for and what you're desiring from that session.
Yes, thanks for sharing that. All right, going back to the training for a bit, but it's also not just a training question. The training's online, and I'm going to assume that since the training where you learn, at least initially online, you've done some sessions in person. The session you did with Brandon was online, correct? Was through Zoom. What's your experience of facilitating a Revelation Breathwork session in person and online?
Yeah, so I've done both at this point. I've done in person in yoga studios, on retreats, in large groups, small groups, one-on-one couples. I've done a variety of different in person and a variety, or I guess online is both one-on-one and in groups online. And I like both for different reasons. The in-person one I really like because everyone in the room is feeling the energy build around them. They're hearing other people in their process, and that can give them permission slips to go bigger, go deeper, allow themselves to emote and scream and squirm and do whatever it is that they need to do. And online, I really like that people get to be in the comfort of their own homes with their as many pillows as they want and their spiritual or emotional support animal snuggled in next to them. I love watching people's animals respond to the breath work. It's always really beautiful to me to watch that. And so I like both. And I think both have their benefits and both have their restrictions, right? Because if you're in person, sometimes hearing other people's process can take you out of it, right? And be a little distracting. So there's definitely benefits to both. And what I really love is facilitating on retreats. I was just mentioning earlier that I'm working with this retreat company that a friend started, doing retreats all over the world, Italy, South Africa, Bali, Peru, the Philippines. Are going all over the place, and I get to facilitate all over the place. And what's nice is I'll facilitate a breathwork session, but then I still get to hang out with these people for the next few days and support them with the integration, support them with starting to apply what they discovered or felt or saw during breathwork by actually still being in vicinity with them, and also adding the other modalities that I teach and am trained in to continue that support with them. So I'd say I like it all.
Are you able, do you remember, can you share some stories of like what some breathers, clients, people who have attended the retreat or one-on-one or group clip, what they've kind of the reaction that they've shared with you? I mean, you shared your first experience. I'm sure you've had some pretty big experiences from breathers that you facilitated, if you remember any of them.
Yeah, actually, I have a friend who, ever since 2021, I don't even really know how she found me, but she found me on the internet. She didn't go through Revelation Breathwork. She went through a different certification, but since 2021, she and I have been swapping breathwork sessions with each other every week. She knows more about me and my business and the details of my life than I think anybody else does, and vice versa. And she's had some really profound shifts in our sessions together. And she facilitates breathwork, she teaches breathwork, right? But with our one-on-one going deep dive into her life, there's been so many aha moments around money and where she was holding herself back in her finances or holding grudges or resentments towards other people around money, and being able to release that through breath work, and then having the biggest month she's ever had financially come through her business because of that release. I think those types of breathwork sessions are really my favorite because, I mean, they're all great, but it's really cool to watch. Just, yeah, you watch the breathwork session, you hold space for it, you're there for it, and then you get to witness the ripple effect and how it shows up in their lives weeks, months, or even days, hours later, things shifting pretty much immediately. I've held space for people to step into the version of themselves who are actually living the lives that they want to call in. And when people get to actually drop into what that feels like, what that looks like, what the house looks like, what the husband looks like, what the or feels like, and get to start to play with more visuals. Because I think a lot of people, there's some people out there who can't visualize, or they have a really hard time visualizing. I'm not one of them. I can visualize very easily. I have a very active imagination. But there are some people out there who struggle with visualization. And I think breath work is a really powerful tool to support those people because it kind of removes a lot of pressure. You're dropping into the present moment. You're getting the monkey mind out of the way, and you're just letting yourself feel. So maybe it's a visualization, maybe it's just a feeling that you're able to tap into. But those types of sessions where people are able to kind of tap into that new reality that was never even a part of their consciousness before, those are really cool sessions to facilitate too.
What would you say to somebody who like wants to get more into this work, but maybe is intimidated by like, I don't know if I can facilitate, or I've never facilitated, I'm not a coach, but there's something about this that's I'm feeling drawn to.
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about it is that your role as a facilitator is to make sure they know what they're doing, make sure they know what's going to happen, and to love on them. And that's really it. And that to me is so beautiful because it means that you can show up not necessarily having your entire life together. You can show up not necessarily having all of the answers. We don't need all of that. You just, if you can look at someone through the lens of love, then you can hold a powerful space for them in breath work.
Amen. Amen. And so another thing that we both have in common, and this is what you do in terms of supporting people as a coach, is the entrepreneur part, like the business side of it. Because a lot of trainings and people want to do the facilitation, but then maybe the business part is intimidating, or running a business is different than just being the facilitator. What have you seen? What have you experienced that supports? And our training does. I don't know if it did when you were there, but we absolutely now support people through that. But I'm wondering, like, what advice or what have you seen, what wisdom can you share with people who maybe aren't business or entrepreneurs, but they really want to support others in facilitation?
Yeah. What I work with my clients on a lot is kind of circling back to what I was mentioning earlier, where we start with energy, we start with vibration, we start with how you're feeling. We first feel good. We first focus on feeling supported, feeling resourced, feeling that you have all of your basic needs met, right? And then getting to the point where you are, like I mentioned, I do a lot of manifestation work, but the way that I approach manifestation is energy first, then action. So we want to first feel good, feel supported, feel like this work is making a difference. And sometimes that means giving it away for free first, right? Getting that feedback from other people where they're saying, wow, this is really supportive. Wow, this is changing my life. Wow, this is giving me all these aha moments. And that kind of helps you build the momentum, the trust, and the confidence in yourself. And once you're there, you start to receive the inspired action steps that get your business to move to the next level. Once you're there, that's when you start to receive, oh, I should reach out to this yoga studio and see if they want to offer a breathwork workshop, or, oh, I could maybe pitch a breathwork workshop at this coffee shop that I like to go to and see if they would be interested in hosting me. Or, oh, I could see if this one coach that I follow on Instagram, if they would like me to come into their community and offer a breathwork journey for their community that's specifically focused on what they're focused on. But those inspired action steps only come when you are resourced, supported, vibrating at the frequency of this. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here, but this shit works. This stuff works. This actually is supportive for people. And I think that really does come from practice and from service. And by that, I mean, I have been offering community, since I got certified, I have been offering community breathwork, which is just donation-based breathwork, as much as I possibly can. With my travel schedule, it gets a little weird and I have to kind of take breaks sometimes, but I love offering community breathwork because it helps to remind me of how much this modality serves people and supports people. I get a lot of affirmation back about that. And I also end up signing lots of clients from that. I actually have someone who has been attending community breathwork with me for years. She's never bought a single program from me. And then this past December, I just went on Instagram stories because I received an inspired action step from the vibration of being supported that said, just mention that you want to do a VIP retreat, that you just want to host someone here in the Texas Hill Country. And she signed up and paid me thousands of dollars, even though she's never bought anything from me before. She's only attended the donation-based breathwork for years. That was warming her up, getting her used to my energy, comfortable, confident in my modalities and my space holding, so that when I did feel called to make that call to action and sell something, she was warm. She was hot. She was ready.
I love that. I love that. All right, I got a kind of random question. It's not that random, but when you were a little kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? You know, we all think about that as a kid, or people ask us. And like, how do you see that what you're doing now? How is it related, connected? Is it, what would your, you know, your 5, 6-year-old self think about what you're doing now?
Yeah, she wouldn't be surprised one bit. I mean, obviously she didn't know what breathwork was back then, but what I wanted to be when I was growing up was a vet. I've always wanted to be a healer. I'm just adjusting who it is that I'm actually working on healing. So, yeah, I would say that my younger self would be extremely stoked to know that this is the work that I'm doing. And she'd probably be like, well, how do you help the animals breathe? How can you apply this to supporting the animals? So,
Have you done that yet? Breath work with animals?
well, not directly teaching them how to breathe, but like I mentioned, I do encourage my clients to bring their animals into the breathwork session because it supports them with the regulation of their nervous system, and their animals love to be a part of it. So I guess in some ways I am.
Love that. Music is a big part of Revelation Breathwork, and I'm curious how you use it, what kind of music you play, and if you have like a go-to. If like I just said, hey, you're doing a session tomorrow, if there's like one song that you're like, oh, that always delivers.
Yeah, I have so many playlists at this point, hundreds of playlists. When I first got started, I made a playlist of all climax songs, of all build up songs, of all wind down songs. You know, that's kind of how I categorized them. And then I started to just make playlists and make more and more and more and more. And I like to sometimes just scroll all the way to the bottom and see what it was I was listening to and what it was I was using 5 years ago in the music. Sometimes it's this exact same music, but I will say the artist who I continuously go back to is Porangi. And I've seen him perform live several times and gone to his sound healings, but he's medicine man music. It sounds like you're in the Amazon rainforest when you're listening. I love the tribal beats, the trance, lo-fi type of music. I love a lot of mantra music that is very focused on instilling affirmations and new beliefs. I think that's even a whole genre of music now called mantra. And so I would say Parangi is definitely a go-to artist who I use a lot. I, as far as a climax or primal sound song, I kind of circle between three. I think the one that you used was There Will Be Time with Mumford and Sons, and there's a few other artists in there. I still use that. Cosmic Love by Florence and the Machine. I have been listening to that song. I have specific memories of jamming out to that song in college and just like having my own climax moments in my car. So those two are definitely up there as far as the climax music goes, to get a big release. And after over the years, I've slowly started to develop my own practices and added some other things in there like breath retention and audible exhales, some vocal toning to support and moving closer and closer to that climax. And I also use, let's see, it's Beyonce's song, and I'm blanking on the name of the song, but it is in The Lion King. I know that because it's the album artwork is The Lion King.
Spirit, Power?
Yes, Spirit.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a good one.
Exactly. Uh-huh. And then Dea Dova also has a song called Return of the Bird Tribes that I use as a climax song. So those are kind of the ones that I go through. And I love that song because it has the sound of the bird that I would refer to as my animal spirit, which is a red-tailed hawk. Right before you scream, that I'm not going to try to repeat it, but it's like this. Actually, I have to. It's like, it's like this piercing, vibrating sound that goes right before you scream, and I just love that song so much. And I saw her perform it live, and just got to fully embody that entire experience. So those are kind of the climax songs that I rotate between, and then Parangi, his ayahuasca album, and then anything that he does, truly I have used in breathwork music. So
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. And just for the people who maybe, because I know some people are really into music and other people it's very intimidating. Was it easier for you? Were you just always into music? So the idea of creating a playlist was more like fun and creative versus like, some people, they dread it or they think it's going to be really hard or it takes them forever.
Oh, it is not hard for me. It is the most fun thing, I think. I like to call myself a spiritual DJ. I've actually purchased a ecstatic dance DJ course because the way I see it, I love going to ecstatic dance. So the way I see it is eventually overlapping some type of dance, breathwork experience, live in person type of thing. And so, and I think also I was a competitive cheerleader growing up. So we always had to come up with playlists and music and mashups and things to make our routines too. So I've been doing the music thing for a while. I've never made music. That's something that maybe down the line I'll get into. But just what's nice is that Spotify does a lot of the work for you, right? If you have a playlist of 2 or 3 songs that are all good for the intro, dropping you in with meditation, Spotify is going to now suggest 7, 8, 10, 12 more songs that are like that. So if you start to create those vibe playlists, if you will, like I mentioned at the beginning, where you have the opening songs as one playlist, the climax songs is another playlist, the building songs is another playlist, Spotify will suggest more. So you don't have to always discover it for yourself. But I always suggest listening to your playlist and getting really intimate with your playlist, because when you know the songs, you're able to facilitate better. And like I mentioned, I like to do these breath holds and audible exhales. So timing that with the songs is something that just comes naturally when you're familiar with your music.
I love that. And that's really what we encourage. And you're a perfect example of making it your own. Like, we're never like, this is how you do Revelation Breathwork. You got to do it the way we do it. We just give a structure, a framework, and then people do all kinds of different and add all different kinds of things from breath holds to, noises and different structures. So I think that's really, really neat. All right, I got a couple more quick ones. One is, this is the work that you do serving people who are here to help others heal, awaken, light workers, helpers. Why do you think there's more and more people feeling that calling professionally?
Because the planet's waking up. People are waking up. People are realizing that the stories that we were told about how life has to be are not true. They're limiting. I mean, like as a Black woman, I get into the patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism, all of the things that have trained us to think that there's one way or there's only a few options, right? You can be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or a firefighter type of thing, right? And so, like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't know this type of thing existed. So I think that as the planet awakens, as people get deeper into yoga and meditation and those types of modalities, breath work is that natural next step, right? We're starting to realize, I'm listening to the book, The Body Keeps Score, right? We realize how much is stored in our bodies and that we can't really talk our way out of our trauma. We can't necessarily talk our way out of what we've experienced and how that impacts us because it lives in our bodies. And so the more people realize that, the more people awaken to that, the more help they're going to need. I think that there needs to be a breathwork studio on every single corner because everybody in this entire world needs to be doing breathwork, and everybody in this world is going to resonate with different breathwork facilitators, right? My brother doesn't need me as a breathwork facilitator. He needs somebody else as someone who looks like him and sounds like him and speaks like him and is where he wants to go. That would be his breathwork facilitator. I'm going to be guiding someone very specific. I'm going to be attractive to someone who's very specific. And so I think the more breathwork facilitators that are out there, the better, because, just like if you've ever spoken to someone who's looking for a therapist, that can be a whole process, right? Trying to find a therapist that resonates with you. Same as with a breathwork facilitator. Finding someone who resonates with you is a process sometimes. You might not resonate with the first breathwork facilitator that you meet. And so it is really beautiful to have more and more people offering this healing. And there's no way it's going to get saturated. There's absolutely no way that this industry will be saturated because there's so much healing that needs to happen on this planet.
Can I ask you another question? This
Please.
is like there's some okay. So let's say some people have, and I'm curious what I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this. We talk about this in our training in Module 2 around the second chakra and money misunderstandings is what we call them. Mm-hmm. Some people think healing work needs to be like free, or you can't charge for healing work. What's your take on that?
Yeah. I love offering my donation-based breathwork. I love that I can make it accessible to anybody. Will I be able to eat if I don't charge for my healing work? No. Will I be able to show up feeling juicy and supported and resourced without charging for my healing work? No. And I personally don't want anybody holding space for me who is showing up in scarcity. I think it's really important for all healers to show up feeling abundant and to feel that the energetic exchange that's happening is resourcing them. Because if someone's trying to hold space for me and they're scared about their bills, they're worried about their medical problems because they can't pay for it because they're not charging enough, I would rather pay more so that they can show up and actually be a effective space holder for me than for them to show up feeling scarce, feeling drained, feeling exhausted, feeling unsupported financially. So I hear you. I understand why people believe that healing work should be free because everybody needs it. But that's like saying that food should be free. Well, we got to pay the farmers. We got to pay the transportation that got the food to the grocery store. We got to pay the grocery store for the building that they built. We got to pay the person that's organizing the apples into this nice and neat pile, right? But there are so many inputs that are required to get the food onto your plate, and we have to pay for that. So same with healing. There are inputs that are required for somebody to show up feeling juicy, supported, resourced, and able to love on you.
Love that. Love that. Okay, there's somebody listening to this or watching this that really needs your help. That you are divinely designed to support them in what they're moving with or what they want or what they're challenged with. Can you, for a moment, just speak to that person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not alone, and there's nothing wrong with you. And life has unfolded the way that it did because it's preparing you for your mission here on earth. And you're here with a goal, you're here with a purpose, you're meant to be here, we need you here, and we love you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
If somebody's on the fence about the training, what would you say to them?
I would
Or
say
about
that,
doing this work?
yeah, I would say that if you've gotten this far, that is your sign. And that it's safe to trust yourself. And it is scary. It is scary sometimes to hold space for people, to feel like you are responsible for their healing. You are not responsible for anybody's healing. You're responsible for holding a loving, supportive, regulated space. And that's it. Because the beautiful thing, one thing that I say a lot during breathwork, I don't know if I got it from you guys or from Brandon or where it came from, but I like to say, I think it is from you guys. The breath does the work and love does the healing. Yeah, that's straight from Revelation Breathwork, right? So the breath is doing the work, and the love that you show up with is the healing. So it's not about you performing or you being perfect or you having all the answers or having their answers. I like to say, I don't have your answers. You do. And the breath is here to support you in accessing that. So if you're on the fence and you've gotten this far on top of the fence, you can either fall back and, wait another year, but you're probably going to circle back to it anyway. So you might as well do it so that 5 years from now you can say, I've been doing this for 5 years.
Love it. Where can people find more of you, Katie?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Womanifester. I have a podcast, the Womanifester podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, all the places. Soon to be on YouTube as well, Womanifester TV.
That's an amazing handle. I don't know
Thank
how
you.
you got that one, but I would imagine everybody would want, well, not everybody, but many people would want that with that handle.
I've had it for a long time.
Have you had any offers? Has anyone ever offered to buy from you?
No, but there are it's funny because when I got it, Womanifesters, like with an S on the end, was already taken. And I was like, wow, this is definitely made for me, because they could have easily taken just Womanifester. And so, yeah, I think, nope, no one's ever offered. I even actually walked away from Womanifester for a few years and tried to do Surrender podcast and then Cageology podcast. Ended up coming right back around to Womanifester.
Well, and I just want to say, I love that about you. You're always willing to reinvent or try something different, as an entrepreneur, not just getting stuck in one thing or one way of seeing yourself, not attached to an identity. I really think that says a lot about you. So I'm just acknowledging that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on the show. Really excited to share you with all of our community and our listeners and watchers and the random people who will stumble upon that this might be exactly what they needed. So
Amazing.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jason.